Hi friends, today we're going to discuss about exception handling mechanism, and we'll see how to handle the exceptions, what are the ways to handle it and all those things. Now please observe here all of you very carefully. We'll see about the exception handling mechanism, exception handling mechanism. Now, see, all of you please tell me what is the meaning of exception, okay? What is the meaning of exception? Exception in the sense, it's a runtime error, am I right? Runtime error. Now, there is a question to all of you people, what is the meaning of runtime error and what is the meaning of compile time error? Okay, actually two types of errors are there in every programming language. If you are taking a programming language like C, C++, and if you are taking a programming like Java and .NET and PHP, anything, we have two types of errors. One is compile time errors and other is compile time error and the other one is runtime error. Compile time error in the sense that error that will going to occur before execution. Before execution, if error would be occurring, that error would be calling as compile time error. Runtime error in the sense after execution based on the user input, whenever the error is coming, that error would be calling as runtime error. That means after the execution, whatever the error is coming, that error will be calling as a runtime errors. Now there is a simple question. I mean, how you can do the compilation errors, the handling, how you can do the runtime error handling, that all the things. Now observe here all of you very carefully. Before execution, whatever the errors are coming, those errors will be calling as compile time errors. We are thinking, am I right? Now see, if I'm taking like this int a is equal to 10 and console dot write line, now I'm trying to display it. Okay, now suppose the example that here I'm taking console dot read key, and after read key I'm just trying to close like this. I'm not closing the line with the help of semicolon. If I'm not closing, I'm trying to run this. What it will going to show here? Tell me all of you. There was a build errors. Build errors in the sense it's a compile time error. Okay, so if it is a compile time error before execution, the developer will notify that and he can able to see the error. What is the meaning of this error? Semicolon is required. So the user will going to do the will going to give the semicolon over here, then he will going to execute this code. So there is no error and it will going to display the result as 10. So compile time error in the sense the errors that are going to occur before execution, those errors would be calling as compile time errors. So these compile time errors are not danger because the developer can able to identify that before execution. So it is easy for the developer to fix the error because he only coded it, right? So he knows that. I mean the error here it is clearly saying that we need to give the semicolon. So the user will be giving the semicolon over here. The user would be giving the semicolon here, and he can able to overcome the compile time errors. So the compile time errors are not danger. So the danger things are runtime errors. The runtime errors would be calling as exception. So okay, runtime errors would be calling as runtime errors. The other name of the runtime error is exception. So to handle the exception, to handle the runtime errors, we'll be having the exception handling mechanism. To handle the exceptions, we'll be having the other mechanism, that is to handle the runtime errors. To handle the runtime errors, we'll be having the mechanism, that is exception handling mechanism. Runtime error in the sense runtime error means exception. Runtime error means exception. Runtime error handling will be calling as exception handling mechanism. Now observe here all of you, just adding the name handling over here, handling. Now the same way, runtime error means exception, and runtime error handling will be calling as exception handling mechanism. That means whatever the runtime error that is occurring at whatever the error that is occurring at runtime, to handle that error will be using the mechanism, that is what we are calling as an exception handling mechanism. Now if you want to handle the exceptions, we are having the mechanisms like we need to use a try catch finally keywords in the .NET. With the help of try-catch mechanism, we can able to handle the runtime errors. Okay. Now observe here very carefully. You see here, all of you here. Now see what I'm trying to do is I'm asking the user to enter the input. Okay, convert.toInt32 of console dot read line. That means we are reading the integer value here. Am I right? Now observe here. What I'm trying to do is console dot write line of I'm trying to display this a value over here, and along with this console dot read I'm using. See, observe here all of you very carefully. Console dot read or read key or read line, anything I'm using here. So what is the meaning of this? I'm trying to read the integer value from output screen. Here, otherwise, if you want to have a good information, I'm trying to ask the user, please enter number. That means user will going to enter the number. Once user will enter the number, it will read this and it will going to display the output as user entered value. If you want to display here also user entered value is user entered value is the user entered value is stored in a variable a. That a we are going to display here. Now observe here all of you very carefully. Well and fine, if you are entering 10 and 20 or any integer number, it will be going to display the output. There is no problem. Now see what is happen if I'm entering Kalyani as a number. So what will happen? Exception will come. That means based on the input whatever you are entering at runtime, it will going to throw error. That error would be calling as an exception. Runtime error came based on the user entered the wrong input. Based on the wrong input user entered, it will going to throw an exception. It will going to raise a runtime error. That runtime error handling will be calling as an exception handling mechanism. Clear all of you? Now listen here. Now listen here, all of you. If you want to handle this exception, we'll be having the mechanism that is what we are calling as a exception handling mechanism. We are handling the exception as we discussed with the help of try, catch, finally blocks. First, we're going to see what is the meaning of try and what is the meaning of catch block. Okay. Whatever the lines of code you need to execute, that all the lines of code we need to place in a try block. All the lines of code that is going to execute, all the lines of code that is going to execute, that will be placing on a try block. Whenever any error is occurring in a try block, whenever any exception is occurring in a try block, that exception will going to handle with the help of catch block. Now again I'm telling you people, all the lines of code that is going to execute that we are placing in a try block, that code we are placing in a try block, whenever any exception that is occur in a lines of code that is present in a try block, that exception will going to throw from try block to it will throws from try block. That is, if someone is required to handle the thrown exception, that is what we are calling as a catch block. Real-time scenario. Listen here, some people are playing a cricket. So if the batsman is if the batsman is throwing the ball, other person is there in the other side to handle the ball, to catch the ball. Someone is throwing, someone is catching. Here also try is throwing the exception and catch is handling the exception. Correct, all of you? Now try is throwing the exception and catch is handling the exception, and it will going to display the information relating to that. Now listen here, all of you, very carefully. As I'm telling you people, whatever the lines of code that is going to execute, that all lines of code we need to place in a try block. Now if any error is occurring, that exception or error, anything, the runtime error or exception that is occurring in a try block, that will going to throw from try block. Catch, it will going to catch the exception thrown from try block. Now listen here, all of you, very carefully. Now console.readline exception related message I'm trying to display over here. Now again, as earlier, whenever 10 is displaying, there is no problem. It is going to display the output. Again, when I'm trying to throw the error that is wrong, when I'm trying to give the wrong data, that is Kalyani, see here, now it is not stopping the execution. It is not showing the pop-up error pop-up like that. It is just displaying the message to the user saying that input string, whatever you entered, is not correct. Because it is accepting what type? It is expecting the data of type integer, but you are given a string. Here exception would be there. The exception would be thrown from try block. That exception thrown from try block will going to catch by the catch block, and it will going to display the message that is related to the exception. That is, input string was not in a correct format. It is going to display in a catch block, and once it is displayed with the help of console.read key, it is accepting the user to enter the key. That is the reason output window would be stable. Now listen here, this is how we can able to give the wrong input in the try block. Try will going to throws the exception, and catch will going to handle it, and it will going to display the information related to that exception. Okay. Now we have some important interview questions here in the exception handling mechanism. Those are, Is it possible to have one try with multiple catches? One try with multiple catches, is it possible scenario? Yes, in the interview, if the people will ask you, is it possible to have one try with multiple catches? You tell them that, yes, it is possible. One try can have multiple catches. Okay. Now, we'll see the simple example. Now, see here, under the exception class, we have many exceptions, like, input string was not in a correct format, and, array out of boundary exception, DLL, whatever you are pointing, it is not available. Like this, many exceptions are there. See here, this exception is a generic class. It can able to handle many exceptions. Now, specific exception I'm giving over here. Now, observe here, all of you, catch. Now, as of now, we have seen, right? Data is in a not correct format. Input string was not in a correct format, right? We have seen, right? Otherwise, divide by zero exception. We have many exceptions here. See, invalid program, invalid time zone. If you are giving in a time zone from IST, it is expecting in a PST format. If you are giving in IST format, it is not correct, right? So like this, we have many predefined, exceptions that are available. Okay, not implemented, null reference, out of memory, and like this, we have many exceptions. See, as of now, what I'm trying to do is, we'll see the other modification of this program. See, I'm trying to read one more number over here. I'm trying to read one. Now listen here, all of you. I'm trying to read two numbers, and those two numbers like this, int A, and I'm trying to read the int B, and the int B, I'm trying to ask the user. See here, all of you, very carefully. I'm trying to take int C is equal to A by B, int C is equal to A by B. That means we are trying to perform division of two numbers. Now see here, I'm trying to display the result of this, and now observe here, all of you, very carefully. In this, if the user is passing the B value as 0, what will happen? Divide by 0. Divide by 0 means what? It is infinity. Am I right? Infinity means user only doesn't know what is the meaning of infinity. How system will going to know that? So divide by 0 exception will come. Am I right? See here, all of you, very carefully. I'm taking one more catch here, and here I'm telling you that divide by 0 exception, that is D, and I'm trying to display the information showing that D dot message. Okay, D dot message. See, so this is how one try can able to have multiple catches. See here, this is the try, and for this try, one exception is divide by 0, another exception is exception EX. So other than divide by 0, if any other exception is coming, if you are passing A as Kalyani and B as Manohar, like that, if you are passing in incorrect values, then at the time exception will going to occur. Okay, now we'll see that. Okay, if I'm passing 10 and 0, at the time divide by 0 exception will come. See, attempted to divide by 0. If you are passing, that means first catch is handled whenever you are taking 10 and 0. If you are taking 10 and Kalyani, at that time second catch will going to execute. That will going to display a message saying that input string was not in a correct format. Okay, now one more important question in try catch is what is the use of finally block? When the finally block will going to execute? Okay, finally block is a mandatory block. Okay, observe here, all of you. Finally means it's a mandatory block. It will going to execute all the times whenever it will going to execute. If error is there, if error is there also it will execute. If no error also, try finally block will execute. Here in the error case also finally will execute. If error is not there also finally will execute. So the interview people will ask you that when the finally block will execute. You people can say that always finally block execute. If error is there, it will execute. If error is not there also, it will execute. Okay. Now see here, all of you. I'm trying to take the finally block, and I'm trying to show the information of the user saying that I am finally blocked. Okay. I am finally blocked. Now observe here, all of you, very carefully. I am finally blocked. Now observe here. I'm just trying to run this. I'm trying to give the information to the user saying that 10. Okay, 10 and 20. So at the time 0, I'm finally blocked. That means no error. At that time only try is executed, and after that it is executing the finally block also. Only try and finally block. Right? Now we'll see the error case. Okay, now we'll see the error case. Now I'm trying to give 10 and 0. So that time divide by 0 exception need to come. So try is executed, attempted to divide by 0, one catch is executed. At the time of catch also finally will going to execute. So if no error is there, all the time the finally will going to execute. So the important interview questions in the try catch blocks is what is the meaning of runtime error, and when runtime error will be occur, what type of errors are available, and is it possible to have one try with multiple catches? This is a mandatory question. If you have if you are going to attempt the interview as a 10 years of experience, there is a chance of having this question. And when finally block will going to execute, the answer for the question is finally block will going to execute all the time. Okay. Now this is about the exception handling mechanism, and try to get this code and information related to the exception class and all those things in the blog, whatever I pointed in my description of this video. Thanks for everyone to listen the class, and have a good day.